in America, many of us still believe in the American dream. But why are we still not happy? Why are we struggling to own our own home, to find a job? Do we still have faith that our government representatives have a heart? And do they care about the people who actually put them into office? Join us as we sit one-on-one with America's congresspeople and ask the questions that will reveal what is at the heart and soul of the people who decide our lives. Hi, I'm Sister Jenna. Let's do Soul Talk. Hi everyone, and welcome to America Meditating Soul Talk show. Today I have one of my very special friends, Simran Singh, and she's going to be sharing with us some very provocative answers from questions that I've grappled with throughout my whole life. I continue to travel around the world to ask questions because I had actually reached a point in my spiritual journey where I could actually finish someone's questions. I could know what they were thinking. I could look at their body language and basically find out where they were coming from and where they're going. And before they even finished saying hello, I was already telling them what was going to happen to them tomorrow. It took away a spark in my spiritual journey, and I stopped enjoying being a seeker, being an innocent child, learning that there was so much more about myself than what I just already knew through just the ethers of mystical knowledge of spirituality, so to speak. This talk show is really important to me because it's about breaking certain paradigms of spirituality, and it's about going into the heart of the soul, the thoughts of a human being, and touching those thoughts and making them the best that you can possibly make them. So this show is about me asking questions of individuals who are on their journey, and they're going to tell us and all of you about who they are and what the story is about. And today we've got Simran Singh. Simran is a publisher of award-winning 1111 magazine, 1111 talk radio, author of Gold Award-winning book Conversations with the Universe, someone who has been traveling internationally and speaks to a variety of audiences. Simran Singh initiates movements that shake old systems and create new pathways. Simran, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Tell us about you. You know, I had these cups specially designed for a reason.
Who am I? Is what it says.
Yeah, so who are you?
So what I do is that I'm the publisher of 1111 magazine, a magazine I give away to humanity as a gift. I'm a radio talk show host of 1111 Talk Radio. I'm an author of 2 books, Conversations with the Universe and Your Journey to Enlightenment. And those are the things that I do, but it's not who I am. Who I am is light and loving expressing itself in the most creative ways possible, being here as an example of the all possibility that can happen when we trust life, when we let go, when we truly believe that life is here to constantly conspire on our behalf. So I'm here not just to write about it or to talk about it. I'm here to be the living example of it.
So one of the beautiful things about being on the path of spirituality is that you get to bump into individuals like yourself. There are a lot of people that are traveling around in our world, and there is a challenge of the courage to get into their space and to live their truth. And one of the most important things, I think, for many people, they hear a calling. Have you felt that? They hear the calling. They hear that there's something to go a little bit deeper for them in their lives, but they don't visit that area. For you, you broke through that. You're a wife, you're a daughter, you're a mother, you are an author, you travel around the globe, and you're sharing your unfolding of your story, okay? But something in you changed, because from my understanding of you, you were also traditional. And coming from like an Eastern background or from India, You don't break those walls of traditionals. You'll end up in one of those Indian movies where everyone's crying and no one's talking to you. Right? And then they put in a dance move so that they can distract you from all the emotions. Remember those?
Oh, definitely.
So you broke through your traditions, Simran, and that's huge. What took you down this road of looking at your life deeper?
The beauty of breaking down. I think the dark night of the soul is one of the most incredible gifts that we are given. It is not the only way to grow and learn, and it's not the necessary way, but it is the way that most of us choose. And we cannot know beauty unless we first know ugliness. We cannot know power unless we first feel powerless. We cannot know our worth unless we feel worthless. And so I had the distinct pleasure of allowing myself to completely usurp an identity that was not my truth, but resulted in people-pleasing and becoming what everyone else wanted and following cultural beliefs, familial, societal, generational, so that all of a sudden I completely lost myself. But I had to lose myself in order to find myself and to find that truth. And that breakdown is what leads people to breakthroughs. And then we can start the path of saying, there's something more here. There's something greater inside and outside that I don't know. Am I willing to discover that? And then we go on to hopefully at some point saying, I'm willing to even let go of this identity and every identity that I have to discover not what I know about myself, but all that is unknown about myself. And then we tap in to the truth of who we are.
But what made you take that extra step? I can't begin to tell you how many millions of people feel the need to do something different. But you took the step. But why is it that many others don't take the step?
You know, I think we have become a society that is so busy and suppresses our emotions to such a degree. And I have been a bit of an introspective person in that I just couldn't believe this world was random. I couldn't believe that all these bad things happened for no reason, or that life was just some place we were all thrown and then we were supposed to figure it out. And so I started to discover there's an interaction with life, that there are signs and symbols and synchronicities, and those things are not actually things that are just popping up out of thin air, but they're actually communications and conversations of the universe happening with us. And as we discover more and more of that, then an awareness can come that you are not on a journey. You are the journey. You are not in the world. You are every piece and part of this world as you speaking back to you about you. What if there is really only one of us here, as you began saying? Of course I'm going to meet my mirror. There's only me here. There's only you here. And when we discover that and understand that everything else out there is also the you that you're looking at in the mirror, then all of a sudden we feel this connection, this oneness, and this churning inside that wants us to burst forth and be more than what we are. And that's where identity starts to crack. And that's when dysfunction and discomfort comes in. Unless we're willing to let go of the discomfort and dysfunction, we won't know the truth and the cracking shell won't fall away.
You spoke about awareness. I've often understood awareness that if you don't have it, you're not in a very powerful place. When you are aware of the original capacity of the human spirit, and I'm talking about the purity of the soul, and you can be in the awareness that that is your anchor and that's your power, then you move through your thoughts, words, and action based on that. Growing up in America, I've often heard of this word consciousness, and I've asked a million people what it means because I continue to try to find some clarity in its narrative. If I were to ask you, what is your definition of consciousness, what would be your response?
It really, for me, boils down to one word, and that would be the word presence. The degree of presence of which we have and where that presence sits. Because our consciousness is either going to be rooted in the future, in the past, or in the present. And if it is rooted in the present, then we discover we are also that present as of the now, and that present being the gift that we are in this experience. So consciousness has to do with the degree we are willing to see what is real, but too many people are willing to consider the future that hasn't even happened yet to be their reality, or the past that they can't seem to get unstuck from as their reality. But the actual reality is the present, where we are simply light, color, sound, and energy here as experience experiencing itself.
Question. Is consciousness thoughts?
Consciousness to me is more of a field of everything going on at the same time. I'm not a human body sitting here. This is my spacesuit. I don't even believe we're spiritual beings having a human experience. That doesn't make sense to me. Because if we're spiritual beings having a human experience, then when we pass, we're just as separate there as we are here. Why would that make any sense? So to allow ourselves to understand that consciousness is a field, and it is the field that we as sparks of light gets to dance and play and move in and create experience makes more sense to me.
Are there different kinds of consciousness? Like, is there a consciousness that is light, and is there a consciousness that is dark?
I believe that it's all light. I believe it's different degrees of light. I honestly believe that we can't have the light without the dark. You wouldn't see light in light. And that there's beauty even in the dark. Too many people are trying to get away from their emotions of anger or jealousy or guilt, and they just want to be the light and be the bliss and be the happiness. But what I've discovered is that the ember sits in the dark. The ember of our light sits in that place, and it is in that place that we birth and we grow, and then the flame emerges.
Why is it so challenging for leaders or people in power, so to speak, to live from a place of light? Because, example, I want peace in the world, but I'll destroy one particular area to get it. So what's going on in our consciousness that, why is it that some folks still feel that in order to achieve victory or peace in a particular place, many have to suffer because many have not been able to understand their position or move in the way of the masses of some sort? What do you think is the issue with their consciousness? Is that consciousness okay? Is that what you're saying?
I think the issue with them is they've become adults and they've gotten way too serious. We weren't meant to be even enlightened adults and enlightened beings. Right. We were meant to be awakened, enlightened children. And if you look at children on a playground, they can meet 20 strangers. You don't see war going on there. They will befriend every child on that playground. Why is it that we as adults have to have war and anger and fighting? It's because we don't know any better. We've been brainwashed from what we originally were, and it's time to return to the innocence.
I remembered once someone was telling me, because I'm in my path of spirituality or meditation, and they were saying, "Oh, Sister Jenna, I don't want to be brainwashed." I says, "I want to be brainwashed because I want my brain to wash out all the things that I'm so used to, that I want to get back to a place of innocence and purity. I want to get back to a consciousness that doesn't shake, that doesn't go through fluctuations of joy and sorrow. But can I ever reach a place where I'm in a state of understanding my truth and live that? And even if I get little turbulence, that's okay. It means I'm flying high."
You know, I have a 3-year-old son, and the one thing that I've witnessed watching him is that when he's in a tantrum, he's got arms and legs moving, he's got tears, red face, screaming. He is in the ecstasy of emotion in that moment. He's so present to the now that he's fully feeling all those emotions that we say we don't want to feel. And in a split second, he will see a butterfly fly by, and all of a sudden he's in giggles and laughter and fully present in the ecstasy of that emotion. The problem is we don't want to feel what we don't want to feel. And because we don't want to feel it, we can't allow the other. But children know something we've forgotten, and that is just feel what's in the moment and move on. Don't carry it on your back or don't suppress it. If we could learn to live like that, we wouldn't become wounded, we wouldn't become broken, and we wouldn't carry baggage from relationship and experience to relationship and experience.
Very well said. God, what's your definition of this energy that everyone talks about and yet claims my God is better than your God?
I would say that we're all God on legs. We're individuations of the divine presence, and that we are experiencing itself as that presence. We are in love all of the time. We are with love all of the time. We are of love all of the time. We are simply here to be as love all of the time. And then the puzzle of divinity can come back together piece by piece as each one of us recognize our unique genius and presence on this planet as that love experiencing itself.
I remembered speaking to an atheist, and he was so sure he didn't believe that there is a God. But he said that the mistake in this formula of talking about a God or believing that there's a God is that they left out one O, that actually people believed in good, not God. And that was his way of defining that energy. And I was in Mount Abu, India many years ago and having my profound experience. I don't believe I was ever a God seeker. I was more of a seeker of understanding the subtle energies of soul or Atma or spirit. But I started to think about this energy called God. As you said, there is a love about it, there is a divinity about it. And then my question started, did I have that in me? Or are my thoughts more focused on the human, the money, the body, the world, the elements? Is this definition of God an energy that is beyond the attachment or the attractions of the elements? Is it like an energy of love and peace and purity, which I just need to tap into? And if I tap into that energy more, is this the divine on legs? Is this the God on legs walking on the planet? And I keep thinking of it over and over again because I always find myself in situations where I'm actually crying for humanity because I'm not quite sure, why does everyone have to be so mean?
You know, I think that's the main issue, though. I think so many people are walking around trying to find their purpose or trying to understand how to help people and how to save people or how to fix these situations or becoming activists. What if there's nothing to save, fix, or heal, outside or inside? What if everything is showing up simply for us to be present to it? Because if we want to be truthful about it, everything is the divine. And if it's all divine, it's already in its perfection. And it's here to allow itself as experience and unfold. What if we're not even here to be seeking? What if there's no seeking necessary, but what's actually necessary is our presence to what is? And in allowing that and understanding what gift is trying to awaken from within us because of that is the real necessity that experience is asking.
When someone gives another person sorrow, I just want clarity, and I want even those that are watching this show, for our own understanding as we evolve together as a world of souls and people. When someone gives sorrow to another human being, is that divine or is that ignorance? I'm just asking because, again, we're Pisces. You know, we live in a bubble, but nobody can really understand, right? And I believe that everyone needs to be in love, for love, and to keep loving everyone the same at some point. And when I see energy not bestowing love to another energy, then the question arises, when I see a father abuse his child, when I see the trafficking of children being the 6th largest money-making industry in the world today, that to me speaks volumes. And my question is, where's God in that picture?
You know, I think that we have turned love into more of a doing than an actual being. And as I was going through my experience of trying to figure out why life looked the way it did and was so painful, I started asking certain questions of myself. And everything that showed up, whether it was a story on the news about trafficking or abuse or violence, I would say, where is that in me? And when I'm allowing what I see outside of me, whether it's termed good or bad, to be discovered in here, then all of a sudden I'm willing to say, where do I do that thing to myself or someone else? If we talk about violence, how many of us critically speak to ourselves or tear ourselves down or think our body doesn't look the way it's supposed to look? That is violence. That is terrorism. And the more I did that, the more I allowed myself to say that the angry store clerk or the innocent child or the person that I thought was wise or the person that shot children at a school, that part of that was in me too, the more I was able to come to oneness and compassion. And the more I was able to understand, if that is the divine and I am the divine, then why would the divine show up in that way? What if love is simply a field, and its purpose is to bring up everything unlike itself? And if unlike itself means that we hold some of that inside of us, it means we'd have to have that show up to trigger that part that is not love within us to come up, to be at outrage, to be judgmental about. Because anytime we are triggered about anything, We can only be triggered if it actually rests within us. And then we can come to awareness. The problem is people have not gotten to the point where they say it hurts bad enough to look inside as opposed to outside.
Oh, yeah, I remember
when we
those
get
feelings.
to the place that it hurts
Yeah,
bad enough,
yeah.
all of a sudden we start to look at ourselves. And that's where love really shows up.
I used to remember a yogi, she used to say she has to say it in a way that it creates ripples
Yes.
in the person's heart so they can check themselves. What are you absolutely sure of? Here you are now, you've been through enough, and there's a lot more to go through, no doubt. What are you absolutely sure of at this point in your life?
I am absolutely sure that I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm really happy with that. What if we're just supposed to live life in that constant change? We are the sons and daughters of creation, and that's not a man or woman in a sky. That means we are creation itself. We're supposed to be this unfolding capacity to discover what we don't know. And it's in that unknown, that willingness to say, I don't have to know how, and I really don't know how, that we actually come to a state of vulnerability and innocence and realism for other people so that they have permission to do the same. This is a time we don't need teachers and gurus anymore. We need examples on the planet, examples of people willing to walk in their authenticity and their vulnerability and show their emotions and show their ability to change and create and express in a way that people haven't seen before.
You know, it takes some time. In a way, it takes time, but in another way, it takes just a second for that aha moment or that realization to happen where you capture, yeah, this is the step to take, and then I'll have to take another one. And so I want to thank you so much for telling me that you have absolutely no idea what you're doing. But actually you do. That is to show love to the world and to share love with the world and to stay in love with the world. And thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me, Sister Jenna. And if I can just share one point, so many people say with all that I've done that I've been so courageous. And what I want people to understand is courage is not the opposite of fear. Fear is necessary within us at certain times to help us move. Courage is the opposite of conformity. Too many of us have conformed to what's going on around us rather than being the creative rebel willing to say, I'm going to be different, and I'm going to shine, and I'm going to be powerful, so that everyone else knows it's okay to do the same.
Well, you're definitely doing that, especially for Indian women, but you're doing that for all women, and I'm sure even men who are watching, who themselves feel stuck in a particular paradigm of their roles, are saying, well, if she can do it, I can do it too.
That's the whole ticket.
Thank you so much. You're fantastic. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.